Hey guys, Alex Magar here, owner and creator of the Transform app. Coming to you today with your intro video for the Macro Pro Challenge, okay? There's a lot involved with this type of challenge, a lot of intricacies involving calculating your specific amount of optimal macros, breaking those macros into blocks, figuring out what foods to eat, and then also working all this within the app. So this is going to be a little bit of a different video. I'm not just going to talk to you today. I'm actually going to go through the Macro Pro Challenge PDF that goes along with this video. All right, I'm going to go through each page specifically. I think that will be a much easier process for you guys to just look at me and listen to a video and then go and look at the PDF. So let's start with PDF now, guys. Okay, I think I got it up here. So, the Macro Pro group, how to plan your nutrition lifestyle and earn challenge points. Here we go. So, what are macros? Macros, let's look at this from a very high level, 1,000-foot type view, guys. Macros, everything that you could eat, all the foods that you have options to eat are broken down into three elements: proteins, carbs, and fats. That's it. That's all we're going to worry about. We're not going to worry about counting calories and all that stuff, guys. So what are each of these elements? Let's start with proteins. Proteins are basically the building blocks of everything in our bodies. It's made of groups of amino acids, and they build on one another to create different types of functions. Functions like neurotransmitters, regeneration and growth of muscle, regulating hormones, and much, much more, guys. I know you guys could read. So obviously, meat is your main source of protein, and if you didn't know that, you should probably be starting at a much lower level than this type of challenge. Nuts, seeds, beans, legumes, and also dairy are great protein sources. Let's go through carbs. Carbs are basically sugars, starches, and fibers found in pretty much all foods, at least in some amount or another. Okay, carbs are heavily found in wheats, pastas, breads, anything sugary. Those are typically looked at as your bad types of carbs. They're also involved in fruits, and you're going to be eating a moderate amount of fruits. Okay. The good types of carbs that you're going to be eating are vegetables. Okay, vegetables are the healthy carbs that you want to get. Carbs are the body's main source of energy in most diets, excluding the keto diet where fats are the main source of energy. You'll go into that if you decide to experience that type of challenge. Too many carbs or sugars and the body's level of insulin can be disrupted, either creating too much glucose or too little glucose in the bloodstream, hence disrupting the body's optimal fat storage. And that's really what counting macros and the zone diet created by Dr. Barry Sears is all about. It's controlling healthy and optimal levels of insulin through the ratio of macros that you're eating. Okay, so fats. Many people have a really strong bias against fats, and the types of diets that you're seeing today that are getting popular, it's starting to move into a much better understood macro. Okay, let me tell you this: fats do not create fat in your body. Okay, eating fat will not make you fat. All right, eating sugars will make you fat. And what is a sugar? Sugar is a carb. All right, so carbs are something that we need to really look at. Fats, on the other hand, there's a lot of good fats out there and there's a lot of bad fats out there. The bad fats that you want to stay away from are saturated, hydrogenated, or trans fats. And the good fats that you want to basically eat are unsaturated fats, things like your olive oils, your coconut oils, your avocados, nuts like almonds, eggs, and cheese, a lot of dairy. You're going to be getting your good fats through animal fats as well too. Okay, so proteins, carbs, and fats, that's what macros are. What is counting macros? There are many ways you can determine what ratio of macros you want to ingest, but this Macro Pro nutrition plan is based on the premise of the ratio of 7 to 9 to 1.5. And again, this is described in the Zone diet created by Dr. Sears in his book, Enter the Zone. If you haven't read this book, it's a great book. I recommend it to everyone. It sheds a lot of light on what we are doing when we put food into our body. Well, what does the ratio of types of food matter? Well, we really need to think of food as a drug now. What happens when you take the wrong amount of a drug? Your body or illness will be out of equilibrium. Think about if you have hypertension, you have high blood pressure. If you're taking high blood pressure medicine and you take either too much of it or too little, you're going to exacerbate that problem. You're going to exacerbate your high blood pressure issue. It's the same thing with general well-being, wellness, fitness, healthiness. If you are eating the wrong ratios of food, your well-being is going to be out of whack. All right, so we need to start thinking of food as the medicine or the cure for unhealthiness. All right. Continuing on with what is counting macros. This ratio of macros creates an environment that controls levels of insulin. I touched on this a moment ago. Too much insulin in the bloodstream in the body will increase fat storages, and what comes with that is inflammation. It's a bad scenario. We're in an unhealthy equilibrium now. Too little insulin in the bloodstream, your glucose levels will rise, and ketones and other hormones will be out of whack, causing an unhealthy situation again. So this ratio of macros puts you in that healthy zone for eating food as a drug and it being the cure for unhealthiness. Okay. So how do I know my optimal amount of macros? This involves a lot of factors, and we've broken it all down into the app for you, so you don't need to think too much about it. It considers your body fat percentages, your gender, your age, and your activity level is a big one as well too. You'll input all that directly into the app, and the amount of macros that you should be eating each day will be spit right back out for you. Okay. So these are a couple pictures of what you'll see in the app when you set up your profile page. You're going to be putting in your birthday, your body weight. For males, you're going to put in a wrist measurement and a waist measurement. And there will be some more videos that will show you how to do this. But you're going to need a tape measure and to put in your exact measurements. If you're a female, you're going to be putting in your hip measurement and abdomen measurement. And that's how we're going to basically configure what your roundabout body fat percentage is. Don't worry, don't be embarrassed. People aren't going to be seeing this. It's so that we can calculate your optimal amount of macros. Okay. Continuing forward in the app, once you have all your measurements submitted, the app, as I mentioned, will calculate your macros every day. And then we're going to take this farther, and we're going to break it down into what we call blocks. Blocks make counting your macros manageable, okay? So we can see here on the left, Sophie is supposed to eat 109 grams of protein a day, 140 grams of carbs per day, and 23 grams of fat per day. That's a lot to keep track of. How am I going to do that on a one-for-one basis? So we break that down into a ratio, a one-to-one ratio of blocks, okay? So we know she's going to be eating 16 blocks. This is much more manageable to keep track of. So I break those 16 blocks into daily meal plans very easily, okay? And then when your app gets up and running and the challenge gets started, how you're going to be keeping track of this is entering those blocks that you eat straight into your homepage. You'll see a button that says your daily macro blocks. If you eat 4 blocks, you put 4 into your macro block section and hit submit, and it will automatically calculate how much you've eaten, the percent that you need to eat, and the amount that you need to eat left. Okay? So let's dive into these blocks a little bit more, what they really are. So the smaller units, the blocks, as I mentioned, we'll break it down into a 7:9 to 1:5 ratio. This basically means that one block contains 7 grams of protein, 9 grams of carbs, and a gram and a half of fats. If you eat 7 protein, 9 carbs, and a gram and a half of fat, then you just ate 1 block, guys, okay? If we have 16 blocks in a day that we know we need to eat, we know we just need 15 now, okay? So now it's getting a little bit simpler, right? Let's go ahead and break this into our example that we just talked about for Sophie. Sophie's entered her info into the app, and it is calculated that she needs to eat 109 grams of protein, 140 carbs, and 23 fats. That means that she should eat 16 blocks every day. Each block contains 7 grams of protein, 9 grams of fat, and a gram and a half of fat. Okay? Because we know Sophie needs 16 blocks per day, we know how much is a single block, and we start breaking that amount down into meals. Typically, we will break your blocks into 5 groups. It's a really easy way to do it. It's 3 meals and 2 snacks. So if we have 16 blocks, we could eat 3 blocks for breakfast, 2 for a snack, 4 blocks for lunch, 2 for a snack, 4 blocks for dinner, and 1 for a snack. That is her 16 blocks for the entire day, guys. So the breakfast would contain 21 grams of protein, 27 grams of carbs, and 4.5 grams of fat. It came from that ratio again, okay? If it contains 3 blocks, 7, 14, 21 grams of fat, 9, 18, 27 grams of fat, and so forth, or grams of protein and grams of carbs, and then so forth for your fats. Pretty simple, right? Not too hard to figure out. Once you get the hang of it, it really is pretty simple. Don't feel overburdened now by it. So now that you know how the diet works, how do you make it work within this challenge? So this is your daily macro blocks button right over here on the left. You'll see this on your home page, and this is what you press to input your blocks that you're eating. You can see this on the view on the right. As you eat meals guided by your blocks, start submitting them by using the button. I would recommend doing this right after you eat the meal so that you don't lose track of it. As long as you log your points, you'll see your ranking update in the app as well. If you go over or under your blocks, you don't get your base points for the day. Okay, so you don't get your 5 points, and if that consistently happens, you're not going to be competitive in the challenge, guys. You got to stay competitive to keep yourself motivated with continuing this type of eating. All right, so stay on top of submitting your blocks, keeping track of your blocks, and staying competitive, and this is really going to work for you guys. So the hard part about this is determining the amount of macros in food. Not everything comes in a package with a nutrition label right on it, all right? It would be great, but typically you're not going to be eating things in packages. Things that come in packages typically aren't the best for you, okay? Meats and vegetables, these are the things that you want, and there's not typically an amount of protein or amount of carbs shown on it when you buy a piece of meat or when you buy a piece of broccoli, okay? So there's a couple things that we could do here. There's a lot of really helpful websites out there. They're listed right here that will tell you the typical amount of proteins, carbs, and fats that you're going to see in typical foods, okay? So check out some of these websites. It should help. Another option that you could do is buying a scale. $20 at any Walmart, Target. You can get it off Amazon. So super easy. Basically what you do is, let's say you're eating asparagus. You're going to take your piece of asparagus and you're going to weigh it. If your asparagus weighs a certain amount, you go online, you can type that amount into a lot of different types of websites, and it's going to tell you how many carbs are in that. So you can start breaking it into your blocks. That's how you keep track of it. If you don't want to use a scale, there's a couple rules of thumb that make this very easy, all right? And get in contact with the creator of your group. See if this is acceptable. Some people like to be super strict on counting macros. Some people like this rule of thumb to make it a little bit easier and manageable. All right? Think of a piece of meat the size of your hand, all right? Basically just assume that that's 4 blocks of protein, okay? It's very close. Same thing with a 6-ounce piece of fish, which is the size of your hand, 4 blocks of protein. 2 cups of vegetables will typically be 1 block of carbs. And one piece of fruit is typically 2 blocks of carbs. And then you could see that 1 cup of cooked pasta, beans, or rice is going to be 4 blocks of carbs. So that processed type of carbs right there, you can see how many more carbs are in it. And you're not going to be able to eat as much per day if you eat those types of things. Okay. All right, so let's go into some tips for this Macro Pro Challenge. When do you eat? I know a lot of people don't like eating breakfast, but Mama was right. It's the most important meal of the day, okay? Try to eat breakfast within the first hour after waking up, all right, guys? This is really important. And then after you eat your first meal, timing is actually very important between your next meal. So what you want to strive for, your goal should be not eating anything after 1 meal, 2 hours after that, or not going 5 hours after a meal. Okay, so you want to be in that meal between 2 and 5 hours, that ratio between 2 and 5 hours. That's basically going to stop you from not filling your tank up and overfilling your tank. Okay, there you go. Next page, meal prep. All right, I cannot stress this enough, guys. Meal prep is the #1 most important thing that you could do to keep you on this type of diet within the zone and staying in your optimal amount of macros, okay? Think about going out to lunch or dinner. You're not going to be able to really figure out quickly how many macros are in that meal, all right? So if you're on your lunch break, if you already have something pre-made, and you know how many macros and how many blocks are in that, it's going to make your life so much easier. So what I do, guys, is pick a day. Sunday works great for me. Meal prep, make lots of food, and break it down into smaller portions that you can put in a Tupperware and eat throughout the week, okay? Your food scales are going to help with this. Just preparing it, a lot of Tupperware is going to help with this, guys. It's going to make your life a lot easier, all right? So technically you can zone any type of food, okay? But that doesn't mean you want to eat 2 or 3 candy bars in a day, and that's going to control your whole carbs, all right? Another type of food that you want to stick away from is high glycemic foods, all right? High glycemic foods create spikes in insulin, and the whole purpose of the zone diet is controlling your insulin levels so that your optimal amount of energy and wellness and well-being is being utilized, okay? So take a look at this list, stay away from the high glycemic foods as much as possible, and try to get as much of the low glycemic foods in, okay? A couple more tips. Here's just some examples of good fats versus your bad fats. Okay, we know we don't want to eat a lot of ice cream and cakes and buns and pastas and cookies and all that type of thing. Here's another helpful guide, and this is in one of the links that I provided earlier from eatperform.com. When you see these typical types of foods and how many proteins, carbs, and fats are in them, it's going to be really easy to calculate your blocks and know how much you've eaten. Here it is for starchy carbs and veggies. So it's getting your carbs in. Here it is for your fruits and your healthy fats. Okay, guys, so we just went over a lot. We learned how to use the app for calculating your macros, inputting your macros and your blocks every day so that you can get your points, and what this diet is really all about and why. Okay, so let us know if you have any questions at all. Like we mentioned, this is really my favorite type of challenge group because it's never been done anywhere else before. There's a lot that goes into calculating each person's optimal macro intake and then turning that into a challenge group. It basically took us a year to program this into a mobile app. So we really hope you guys enjoy it. Let me know if you have any questions at all on counting macros, the zone diet, or working it out in the app. Okay? Cheers, guys. Till next time. Hope you guys really found this helpful, and good luck in your Macro Pro Challenge.